So, welcome everyone. Today we're going to start the second episode of the biography of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Sirat al-Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. We will first start with a historical preview. Let's all first take a look at the world at the time of Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born in around the 6th century, 571 exactly. And as some of you know, that this was known as the Dark Ages in history. And that's actually how the world looked like at that time. There was lots of discrimination, colonizations, warfare. People were divided into classes, inferior class and superior class, and generally life was just in chaos. And people had lived in very extreme conditions, extreme poverty. We're gonna have a broad look, and then we're gonna zoom in closer into the Arabian island and into Mecca, to see exactly the city that Muhammad was born into. How was the society at that time? Okay, so the two dominant empires at that time were the Persians and the Romans. There was injustice, there was discrimination towards the commoners that they colonized, because they colonized many land. This is with regards to the Romans. Most people lived in extreme poverty, while they lived in extreme luxury. They were so immersed in desirous pleasures that masked their ability to differentiate right from wrong. If you heard of the Roman gladiators, where the convicts were thrown to predators like lions as a part of the day's entertainment, and they would wrestle till the man was killed and people were around laughing and watching. Persians, on the other side, had a society that was the worst in terms of classification, a very high and prestigious class of Caesars and kings, and then came the priests, and after that was the overtrained and worn-out commoners class. It is said that it was the world's worst in terms of society classifications and difference at that time. Europe at that time was lost. Poverty and ignorance were widely spread. There was a total loss of values, humanitarian values. There are records also that revealed a scientific research paper that was going on amongst scholars, or the educated slice of the society. They were discussing whether women were humans or animals. And so just imagine. And also, does she have the soul of a devil or the soul of a human? And should she inherit or not? And polygamy, which is now more tied to Islam, was very popular at that time. Which is polygamy means having more than one wife. And now the West is all the West is raging about in the Muslim religion is polygamy, which was really popular at the time. And in fact, the number of wives was limitless, and that was because women had no value at that time. That the world has never seen a time that was darker or worse or more desperate than the 6th century. The world was in complete paralysis, and Europe was like a rotten dead man's corpse. And by the way, you will find that most, if not all, Islamic historians describe this time, like many other Westerns do, as dark and ignorant, etc. But in Dr. Amr Khaled's opinion, or that's what he mentioned in his personal opinion in the program, which of course I agree with him, is that it was not 100% correct statement to say that these were dark ages and they were only full of ignorance, etc., etc. No empire can rise on this planet unless they had the fundamental necessity for that. At the time they rose. So this is one of the world constants or life constants that God has put. Then what happened to them? Why did they fall so badly? Well, in his opinion also, that the generations changed. And with the change of generations, beliefs and values also changed. And also because another one of the sunan or of the constants of life is that every empire that rises will fall one day, and that this was the time for their fall. So it's not that they were always like this. They must have gone through the curve that they started to rise until they reached the optimum or the highest point, and then they started to fall again. And it was the time of the worst time that Prophet Muhammad was sent. A closer look and zoom into the Arabian island at this time. It was mainly divided into tribes, and these tribes were fighting each other in a very bloody way. They lived by the jungles rules. The strong will eat the weak. Hatred, bandits were very popular. Many times kids would be stolen from their families by bandits and sold as slaves in the slavery markets, like Zayd ibn Haritha. And this kid later on became the Zayd ibn Muhammad, like Zayd son of Muhammad, because he adopted him, and that was before Islam. Prophet adopted his servants, and we will see the full story later. Actually, it's a very interesting story. It's going to come up at a later episode. So people lived in complete chaos, tribes fighting each other. How was religion at that time? They had thousands of goats. Al-Kaaba, which is this black box that Muslims go for pilgrimage. And by the way, just let me mention that, and just to clarify this point, that we do not worship that black box. We don't worship it. It's not our god. No, it's just it just marks the spot on our planet Earth where exactly above it in the universe is Allah's throne, or God's throne. Okay, in the seventh universe or sky, I don't know what you call it in English. And also, by the way, angels have one for them, and that is in the fourth, I think, yeah, in the fourth universe or sky. And they also go for a pilgrimage in that, in their, I don't know if it's a box or a circle for them. Above the Kaaba at that time, there were 360 idols. And the idols were like stone statues that people worshipped at that time. Like they considered them as their gods. And sometimes their idols needed no features. One might just choose a square-shaped rock and say, okay, this is going to be my god. But it has no features. Like you would go on and say, this is just a rock. There's no features on it. And he'd say, okay, yeah, I know, but it's my god. I've chosen it. And they had very strange things, like they could change their god. If, for example, he's going on a travel and he's like lazy to take this big giant rock with him, he would say, he would go out to the desert and look for smaller 2-3 rocks and then say, okay, this is going to be my god until I come back. And sometimes they would make their gods from dates. So they would make a god of dates. And then like Umar ibn Khattab, which is one of the pillars of Islam. He is the third ruler of Islam, like after Muhammad was Abu Bakr and then Umar. So this Umar, before his Islam, he had once said that he had an idol from dates, and that if the winter days got very cold at night and they felt hungry, they will go and take a bite of their goat, and then in the morning apologize and say sorry to their god and rebuild it again. And when he told this story, people at later times after his Islam, people asked him, did you have any brains at that time? And he commented that yes, we had brains, but we did not have guidance from Allah. So how about women at that time? Yes, women also in the Arabian island were suffering. They had no financial rights. She did not inherit. So you have to bear in mind that Islam in fact brought a revolution to the women's rights. It was strange to them that Islam gave the women the right to inherit. Before that, women were inherited like any other belongings of the dead man. Some noble families were not like that, of course. However, the majority was. Also, there was what was called wa'd al-banat, like, and that's really so sad. It means actually it's just torture of young girls. It was very common at that time, and they would take girls when they were very young, still very young, around 6 or 7 years old, and bury them alive. And it really makes me want to throw even just saying this, but that was the history of Arabs at that time. And they thought that girls were not only a burden, but they were also a shame to the father, and that's why they did this. And there's a verse in the Quran that says, if she is asked, meaning وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ, meaning if this buried girl were asked on the day of judgment, بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ, what sin or what wrong did she do to be buried alive? So okay, and Prophet, just imagine like this same society after 10 years only from this, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ brought Islam and brought the prohibition of these acts and gave the women rights. And actually there is a hadith. Hadith means that saying of Muhammad ﷺ where he said, whoever has 3 girls and he disciplines them, teaches them, and has mercy on them, and just put a line under the word mercy on them, he will get heaven as his reward. And one of the people who were at that time available jumped and said, what if he had only 2? Because surely he had 2. The Prophet said, even if 2. Then one went on and also said, what about 1? And he said, even if 1. So just imagine that the same society now is racing each other in treating girls, their daughters or their girls, in a very good way, teaching them, having mercy on them, and disciplining them, and expecting the reward from Allah, which is heaven. And it's not a simple thing. So just imagine the huge shift in the society and its view towards girls and women. And when his daughter Fatima used to come to him, he would get up, Muhammad ﷺ, and hug her and kiss her between her eyes or on her forehead, and showing to, and in front of everyone. He would do it in front of his companions, in front of it was not as normal at that time, but he did it to show them respect to daughters and women in general. So with this we come to an end of the first part of this episode, which spoke about the historical preview and how the world looked like at that time. Hope you enjoyed. Please keep on watching, and I hope that you will benefit from these lectures or these videos, and always ask for guidance. Just ask for guidance, and truly he's gonna guide you.